Hi everybody, this is Shu, and this is my PowerPoint slash video for discussion board one for CI 225, and this video slash PowerPoint is talking about teaching the International Society for Technology in Education. So my teaching experience. The five questions I wanted to focus on are: how would you describe your teaching experiences in terms of pedagogy, content knowledge, and expertise? So for one, content knowledge. I believe personally that I have a good plethora of content knowledge from personal research in the curriculum that I teach, as well as education. Furthermore, I believe that I'm able to deliver challenging concepts and inquiry-based lessons. Sometimes the teaching method may not be always as effective, but definitely the content is challenging and it is there. Furthermore, um, I'm a person that loves maintaining relevancy and information and recent research. I don't like to have old information. Sometimes the textbooks are a little outdated, and so I like to always use the internet as well as look at peer-reviewed articles of science topics in order to remain relevant for my students, for what's going on in the world. In terms of pedagogy, um, I know many of you may not agree with this, but I do have a content-based approach in teaching. So the content, what we're learning, actually drives where the class goes. The reason being is I teach chemistry and biology, and it is very heavy on content. So um, I try to have the content drive the class, and then I also try to bring in my students. Students are able to voice their opinions on curriculum being taught, and I do this so they're able to be interested in the topics and not necessarily just blow off the subject, because it is important and it is interesting. Furthermore, in the classroom, I like to maintain a facilitative approach. I don't like to dictate anything. I like to help guide my students more and guide them to the correct solutions, to the questions that they should be asking, rather than holding their hand, or I would say more direct instruction. I try to deviate away from that. So one of the main things of my teaching pedagogy is I encourage qualitative learning over quantitative. So I like the quality of learning. I like to be in depth rather than trying to learn as many things as possible, because in those situations, it is very difficult to engage students and it really holds no merit. So technology involvement. The second question asked was technology involved in your past teaching endeavor? If so, how? Well, let's talk more about my teaching endeavor. So this is going to be my fourth year teaching, and I quickly made a graph just to kind of portray how my teaching has evolved throughout the years. So my first year, as you can see, the green bar graph represents direct instruction lessons. And on the very left side, you'll see 0 through 100. Those are percentages. So the percentages of my lessons. So if you can see, about 85% of the time in my first year, my lessons were direct instruction. I taught the kids what to do. I lectured. I utilized PowerPoint. I basically ran the class for the students. They were copying, they were trying to listen, whatnot. So one of the things I learned from this was, this is your first year teaching. You are trying to get into the mold of teaching, and sometimes you're not always comfortable. As you can see, this is just a rough estimate of my own personal experience. From year two, I had to teach two different preps, so I had to start implementing more technology integration lessons. You'll see that the percentages, all three of them, do not add up to 100%, because I either had direct instruction or inquiry-based lessons, and then technology integration lessons, which is the blue bar, apply to both. So percentages of my overall all of my lessons that I use technology. You can identify that in year three was when I made a really big jump of adding more technology. and reducing direct instruction lessons. This was due to the fact that I taught pathway courses, and it kind of forced me. I was given a 1-to-1 ratio of laptops to students for all my classes, and I was able to utilize technology to run programs, to run apps so students can use. And then in year 4, because year 3 I was able to kind of pave my way and pace what I was doing. Year 4, I'm really more on top of it. I've lessened direct instruction. I've increased inquiry-based lessons, and technology integration is highly effective. I do a lot of scavenger hunts. I do a lot of typing, a lot of research online. So I definitely have made major jumps into technology involvement. So moving on, what does technology integration for the 21st century learners mean to you? Well, it means a couple things to me. First and foremost, professional skills. So with utilizing technology, I'm able to help students gather information and data. Okay, for research purposes, for purposes to try to explain a phenomenon or whatnot. Furthermore, students are able to plan and organize, so teaching them how to set schedules, how to make a Gantt chart where they're able to deviate the work, so not one individual is doing all the group work. Verbal and written communication, so writing emails, personal business letters, resumes, all these things are actually, I don't write resumes in class, but students are able to learn how to verbally and communicate through writing and typing on computers, which is more effective and quicker, and I believe easier. Furthermore, using technology, I'm able to have students collaborate more. For one, when you have a 1-to-1 computer ratio, students are able to talk with their peers from across the room without having to move, and I thought this was a great method. Problem solving, and all those came with using computers, using different programs and apps. For my own class, the scientific skills, students were able to communicate ideas and information to one another as well as to me. I utilized Google Classroom, so they were able to send me items and I was able to check off from my computer, so that was really effective. Furthermore, technical writing and analysis. Now, this was important because we do lab write-ups, and students were able to, write lab write-ups and get immediate feedback from me. And so I thought that this was a great piece in analysis, because sometimes when students were to write by hand, it took a little bit longer to correct, to read it all, but on the computer, I was able to make adjustments, make comments right away. And so it wasn't only for them, but for me as well. And the number one thing is the collection of data. So you could use Excel. We have the near probe, so you could look at temperatures. You can have calibrators. All these different machinery that can collect data using a computer. And so these were all utilized within my classroom. And then, of course, software skills. As I was saying earlier, probes and sensors, utilizing apps and programs. All of this helped maintain efficiency within my class, rather than having to, try to obtain data through, experiments and whatnot. Trying to measure things manually. We were able to measure things using probes that are more accurate, more precise, and also we could get a reading faster. And with softwares, we were able to see trends right away without having to graph it on our own, which is a very effective means. And I think all these skills are essential to our students being competitive in the world market, to have competitive jobs, to be able to compete with others in terms of, hey, are you technologically sound? Can you do this and more? So, what are the necessary qualities that enable the teachers to use technology as meaningful pedagogical tools? Well, my number one thing, as you can see from my title, is qualities for success. And I put perseverance. What do I mean? Okay, well, planning. Everybody's going to have to plan, and it takes a lot of time. So for one, you got to plan for classroom sizes, for number of laptops or tablets you're going to have, and time to run application and programs. There will be troubleshooting, and it will get difficult. But through planning, you're able to make directions clear and precise. And then as you know, do that at the beginning of the year, slowly the students will know what to do right away. And then using technology will not be a hassle. Experimentation. Um, every teacher or educator that wants to go through technology needs to experiment. Try it on a small scale, do it at home. Try to idealize every scenario of error or malfunction that you think your students can go through. Make an escape route. Find shortcuts and loopholes. Help students really embrace the technology. Because when you show them shortcuts and how to do things more efficiently, things will go faster and you can get more done. Last but not least, troubleshooting or error proof. You know, error shoots. I mean, troubleshoot every detail that can go wrong. Backup plan for mishaps. So there have been times when I've been using laptops and the internet died. So what some of we had to do was, rather than totally blanking out on um, the issue, basically students, we would have to go manually. We would still use the computer to do things that we couldn't go online, and then we would have to get a pen or paper and do some things manually, and then input it into the computer, maybe on a Microsoft Word, save it, and then wait for tomorrow. You never want to waste time, and there's no need to. So always a backup plan is awesome because you can always do something even if you don't have um, internet connection or anything like that. And then last, what are the potentials for technology to enable student-centered learning? Well, here are a couple of lesson plans that, or they're not lesson plans, but they're student work. Here you'll see Logger Pro, which is a software that we're able to use certain probes and sensors to collect data onto our computers. You can see that there's axis time over force. People, we were testing the strength of students over time. You can see from the graph that initially they started off pretty strong, but after a certain amount of time, endurance, strength began to dwindle. And so the power of technology allows us to see these trends and these relationships. Again, this is another sensor. It's the heart rate monitor, so we're able to determine the heart rates of students and just run heart rates on individuals to see, how are our heartbeats going? How fast, how slow, over what time? And this is all part of just collecting data, experimentation. And then last but not least, one of the powerful things about utilizing the internet and stuff is this was actually a scavenger hunt that I created where I gave students 30 scenarios and they had to find what was making individuals sick. Was it some sort of virus, bacteria, infection? What was it? And they had to find the organism that was causing such illnesses. And so students had to look up everything from the scenario, different types of microorganisms, and try their best. This was a guess and answer, and then if you got it right, keep going on. So these are all tools that can make technology powerful, and I think everybody should consider using technology. Thank you.